Hello, 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 friends. Nicholas here with DIVO-Ted Talks, Devoted Talks, where we take ancient wisdom and practices through a modern lens and experience to help you and those you love in suffering in your personal and greater worlds alike. And I have a question for you. Why is it that we are always striving and always running and always doing and going? Keep on listening, and I'll let you know by the end of this podcast. All right. So, why is that? Well, one, it is because that is the way our society is structured. And so we are acclimating to our society. We are agreeing to it in different ways, shapes, and forms because we don't really have any other choice, right? You're born where you're born, and there's the practices and structures that are already there when you are introduced into it. Now, one of the things that is of benefit in certain areas is you can self-determine with your life and become what you want to become. And it's easier in some places rather than others. And so maybe you can move and maybe you can change and you can be in these different places depending on, opportunities that arise. And some places have those more available than others. But the whole point of talking about this is that our society is set to be this go, produce, burn the candle at both ends, right? People get burnt out because we're constantly burning up our fuel to participate in the life that is available to us potentially and in the greater expressions of it, right? And so Pitta vitiation is high in our society because that is what we do. Right. And even people who don't even have a lot of pitta in their constitution are vitiated because there is such a pull and push to become that. Right. And some people are adapted to it and some people are not. And people start to self-segregate out into those things. And so why do we always feel like we have to go? Because we joined into the momentum of our society, and it will continue to be that way until there's a reckoning. Either the society as a whole is diseased, and I would argue that we are getting close to that now in many ways, or it has always been disease, and this is the consequence of that disease or dis-ease within the society and its structures. Now, it can get really convoluted because it's more theoretical without exact circumstances, but I can tell you, what do you feel like they were begging of you or forcing upon you when you were in school? Right? To perform the way that they thought you should perform rather than honoring what it is you were good at, right? You're not good at tests, and so we're still going to test you and then give you judgment based on that. And so the push or the drive is to do well on those tests because that dictates your future, or at least we were led to believe that. And so it is ingrained in us because we joined into this greater karmic expression for where we were born into. And the world at this time is on this runaway train, and it's a coal engine. It's not a steam engine. It's definitely not electric. And it's definitely not renewable. And we're going full steam ahead. We're going full throttle ahead. And it has impacts on us. One is it can burn you out. Two, it can burn you physically, like truly in the truest sense of the word, right? You get so hot that it just fries your system. Like you're overloaded, you're overstimulated, and you're overacted upon. I'm trying to figure out how to best say that. So, and I'm trying this new thing where I'm trying to come up with this topic beforehand, and I tried to put it into this and encapsulate it in the doing too much. And the fact of the matter is that a lot of us were not raised in households where we felt worthy just by being who we were. And so there's this drive constantly to either prove to ourselves or prove to other people that we are worthy. And with that comes a lot of striving and driving and stress. And that burns. And sometimes that fire in your belly consumes you. And sometimes that fire in your belly is diminished. And so we're constantly working through the interplay of these different forces on that fire within us, not recognizing that the fire was created by a deep need or a deep yearning that should be satisfied rather than these details that we're acting out in the greater society or the greater world as it is. And so what does that mean for us? It means that we're attracted to things like yoga and Ayurveda because they help us remember that we are enough already. And we don't hear that enough in our lives, and we don't believe that about ourselves enough in our lives, right? One of my favorite sayings that I've heard, and I've said it before, is we love others the way we wanted to be loved or needed to be loved, but we love ourselves the way we were taught to love ourselves by our parents. And so if your parents were constantly asking more of you because they thought they knew what was best for you, well, that's how you learn to love yourself. You're going to constantly love yourself based on either performance or ability to show up in the moment. And, I think some of our judgments on ourselves are misplaced because we are thinking we could have done more, but in the moment, if we could have, we probably would have, right? Like if you had more energy, you wouldn't be lazy. Like lazy isn't this like state of being, right? There's always a moment where you could do more, but that just because you don't do it doesn't mean you're lazy. But what I will say is that you're so unconscious, you don't know what you're doing or why you're doing it. And so don't mistake your unconscious behaviors for lazy. Identify your unconscious behaviors as I don't know why I'm doing the thing I'm doing. So I should evaluate that thing that I'm doing so that I can come to know myself better, so that I can act more in tune with myself, can act more aligned with myself in the future and going forward and with people around me. Because if I show up better for myself, I'm going to show up better for everybody else, right? It's like putting the oxygen mask on yourself first before taking care of anybody else, because you're of no use to anybody if you are unconscious. And so bringing your consciousness into your life in all of your actions so that you are showing up for other people in that same regard. Now, what does that have to do with striving and driving? You don't know that you're doing it. You are questioning, like I asked at the beginning, why it is that we got to go, go, go and do, because that is how the systems have been set up. Because there's machines at play that need our participation and to keep going. And it feels like you have to join into it when in reality you don't. The only reason that you have to is because that you believe that you do. And in that belief, you are subjugating yourself to that reality. And if you are able to extricate yourself by the realization that it's just the belief that's holding you there, then you can recreate and reshape through your intentions and attention until the reality around you also shifts and changes. And then in that, you will have a greater experience, a greater love of self, and a greater appreciation for the art that is life day in and day out. It is an art to live life well. Everybody is an artist, and yet we look at artists and go, oh, that's not a hard life. But those people who are artists know that they couldn't do anything else, or they feel their best when they're doing that. But living your life is also an art. Knowing when to apply this stroke versus that one, a tiny one versus a big one. But most of the time we're just throwing paint at the canvas, and sometimes it creates something beautiful, but sometimes it creates a mess. Sometimes it's so many colors and so many shapes and strokes that it comes out muddy and inarticulate. So much so that we had a period where we're like, abstract is in, abstract is great. So what to do. Recognize that it is not your fault that you are within this system, right? The Matrix has you, Neo. It's okay. We all are a part of it. Even now, I find myself getting swept away sometimes. And it's easy to do because it is what has been practiced. But it is not a death sentence, and it's not forever. But until you bring awareness and attention into your experience and your life and your actions, it will continue to be that thing. And or you'll have fits and starts where sometimes you're on it and sometimes you're not. Most of my life has been fits and starts. I have clarity and I'm like, yes, that's it. And then I go unconscious and then I start doing the thing that I've done the whole time. It just may have different details to it, right? Like this time I'm doing working out. And the working out ends up burning me out. This time I'm working a business, but then the working out the business wears me out. Like it's the same story, but the details are a little bit different. I put a different cover on the book, but it's still the same old book. It's the same old story. And that is to be expected when you're unconscious. Yoga and Ayurveda isn't always trying to call you to be super spiritual and Zen. Sometimes it's just saying breathe so that you're in the moment and not somewhere else. or chasing some dream or chasing some belief of what you need to be, rather than loving yourself for who you are or loving your experience for what it is. All right, my friends, I think that's a good place to stop. It is not your fault, but today you can start doing things like pausing and reflecting and moving yourself, even if by a half a degree at a time, in a new direction. And ultimately, that will lead to the destination of being well and being free.